Carol Massar
here right now
with stocks at session highs.
Yeah, I mean, pretty remarkable.
I just wanted to make sure you were paying attention.
I'm a little sleepy, to be quite honest. Having said that, I find it remarkable that with all this talk about tariffs and our own Mike McKee coming in and saying, yeah, this feels like a trade war, that we are seeing equities gain in today's session.
I guess it's because they haven't been imposed yet. And after April is when we'll hear from Howard Lutnick and the president as to when they will be imposed. But I guess another delay has got people kind of okay with this.
Well, April 1st is like a lifetime away at this point, right? I mean, a lot can happen between now and then, including we get 13F filings over the next day or two, and that could be a more immediate catalyst for specific companies.
Also, I want to point out, too, that consumer staples finally hitting that record high. Walmart has up for like 4 days in a row. That's at a record high. So it's still sort of the safety trades to some extent. I mean, materials are also performing that are holding up the market.
Hey, have you checked out Meta lately?
It's down today. It's like a miracle.
It's up right now.
Wait, it went up?
19 straight days. Of course, the longest win streak on record.
Carol didn't even put it as one of her gainers. Again.
Oh, Carol.
Do not judge.
I mean, look, what can we do about it?
There's always tomorrow.
But it gets to this broader idea, too, about what's being bought and why. And I don't know if you can even explain this 19-day rally in Meta, particularly when a lot of its peers aren't doing just as well. Nevertheless, let's get you to the closing numbers here with a slew of earnings scheduled to report. The S&P 500 falling just short of that record high, but it looks like it's going to close higher by about 60 points or about 1%, closing right around 6,115. The Dow up more than 300 points or 0.8%. The Nasdaq up about 300 points or 1.5%, while the Russell 2000 getting in on the action as well, up 27 points or about 1.2%.
All right, into the S&P 500 we go. Folks, we've got about 396 names to the upside, so definitely a risk-on trade, more so in today's session. And Scarlet, about 107 to the downside.
Yeah, and take a look at the IMAP. A lot of green on the screen. In fact, all 11 industry groups are in the green, with materials and consumer discretionary and tech leading the way, all up at least 1.5%. Industrials, utilities, and healthcare are, I don't want to say the laggards, but they're underperforming relative to the rest of the market. When you break it down by 24 industry groups, pharma biopharmaceutical companies, wait, I can't get that word out. Pharma companies and life sciences companies, there we go, and capital goods are slightly lower.
You got there. All right, let's get to Roku. Their earnings are just crossing the Bloomberg terminal as we speak. I'm pulling it up here on the Bloomberg. And you've got Roku, fourth quarter net revenue of $1.2 billion. The estimate was for $1.15 billion, so a little bit higher than what the street was expecting. I don't see any other headlines on that.
Well, I mean, just
stock up about 6%, forgive me. But yeah.
Well, I was just looking at the streaming hours. That was up about 17%. But most of these numbers are relatively in line, Carol. Yep. But I think maybe some people are kind of trading on this idea here that with gross margins expanding, with user growth at least stable here, maybe that's will play into a forecast, though I'm not quite seeing one jump out at me.
We got a forecast here. First quarter net revenue of $1.01 billion, smack on what the street was expecting. First quarter gross profit, $450 million. That's better than what the street was expecting, $432.4. And first quarter adjusted EBITDA, guys, $55 million, and that is a little bit light, but nonetheless, Roku up about 9%. We got another one.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to Applied Materials. That is just crossing the wire right now. Of course, this is a semiconductor equipment company. Just having a little trouble pulling this up here, but it looks like we're getting a negative reaction here with the company saying the net sales came pretty much in line with estimates, $7.17 billion. The street was looking for $7.15, so a slight beat there. Adjusted EPS at $2.38 a share. The street was looking for $2.28 a share. Not much of a reaction in the shares right now, but it looks like the top and bottom line numbers were in line. And as far as semiconductor systems net sales, an important metric, because this kind of ties in to what's been going on with AI. Growth there was about 9.1%, but again, that number, $5.36 billion, was still in line with street estimates.
All right, well, let's take a look at Wynn Resorts. Shares higher in the after hours right now by just about 3%. The company came out with fourth quarter operating revenue that did go beat expectations, $1.84 billion. Estimates are for $1.77 billion. Fourth quarter adjusted earnings per share also coming in above estimates, way above estimates at $2.42. Estimates for $1.27. We got Airbnb.
All right, let me take a look at this. We have fourth quarter EPS 73 cents, beating the consensus estimate of 59 cents. Fourth quarter nights and experiences booked 111 million, slightly higher than expected as well. Adjusted EBITDA $765 million, almost 100 million more than what was anticipated. In terms of the outlook for this quarter, it sees first quarter revenue anywhere from 2.23 billion to 2.27 billion. Analysts were looking for 2.29 billion, so that is a miss on the revenue outlook for this quarter. Once again, the revenue coming a little bit light. The stock right now is higher by more than 7% in after-hours trading. There's a lot of concern about the strong dollar and what it means for the international business, because certainly Airbnb very exposed to that.
Just going back to Applied Materials for just a moment. So clearly they did beat estimates, but their second quarter net sales came through here, and it was a miss, coming in at about 7.1 billion versus 7.22. So that miss there, taking a look at Applied Materials.
I want to layer on top of that because there were some concerns about Chinese export controls, and they do say in the press release, this is the Senior Vice President and CFO, for the second fiscal quarter, we're encouraged by the trend supporting continued customer investments to enable leading-edge technology inflections while also taking into account export control related headwinds. So there might be a little bit of concern and disappointment on that.
Yeah, and this is going to be, when we get to these conference calls, I mean, these are the questions that are going to be peppered, that the executives are going to be peppered with. I do wonder, though, about their exposure. I mean, it didn't really seem that high to begin with, and at least seemed like there was some adjustability that if they needed to pivot.
There was an analyst note that had said that Applied Materials had de-risked from China to now, the low 30% of revenue in the second half of last year. That's compared with more than 40% in the first half. So you wonder how much room there is to de-risk further. And that's certainly a theme that we've been hearing from companies throughout this earnings season.
Well, and they definitely cited it in the release, at least a little bit. Sorry.
No, that's right. All right. We also have Yelp earnings coming out as well. I'm just bringing it up right now. So Yelp actually beat estimates for its net revenue for the fourth quarter, coming in about $362 million. Solid beat. Earnings also looking real strong, coming at 62 cents a share versus 37 cents. But I don't know if that necessarily is comparable because that's a big spread.
Twilio out with their earnings as well. Those shares down in the post-market trade. Adjusted EPS, a slight miss. They're coming in at about $1 even. The street was looking for $1.03. Fourth quarter revenue coming in at 1.19 billion. The street was looking for 1.18 billion. So it looks like a slight beat on that metric here. The company, though, also reiterating, basically going to stand by the previous financial targets that it gave for the full year fiscal 2025, which includes organic revenue growth of about 7 to 8% year over year, of course, on a non-GAAP basis.
And interesting because remember, Twilio also pre-announced just on January 23rd. Hey, Palo Alto guys, let's get to it. Second quarter adjusted EPS, 81 cents a share, 3 pennies light compared to what the street was expecting. Second quarter revenue is 2.3 billion. That's a little bit better. 2.24 billion was what the street was expecting. Going to the third quarter, the outlook, it sees third quarter adjusted EPS of 76 to 77 cents a share. Folks, that's light. The street's looking for 80 cents and sees third quarter revenue 2.26 billion to 2.29 billion. And the estimate on the street is 2.27 billion. We're seeing shares of Palo Alto just down about 1% here in the aftermarket.
And I'm looking at shares of GoDaddy. They're kind of jumping all over the place. The company did report fourth quarter revenue that beat estimates just barely. Fourth quarter earnings per share, though, coming in at shy of estimates at $1.36. As far as the outlook goes, the company sees the first quarter well in line with estimates, 1.18 billion to 1.2 billion, estimates for 1.19 billion, so smack dab in the middle there. And also seeing the full year outlook for 2025, 4.86 billion to 4.94 billion. The estimate was for 4.9. So kind of in line when it comes to the outlook for the year and for the first quarter. Shares of GoDaddy right now, just higher by 0.2%.
All right, let's move over to the crypto exchange, Coinbase. It had a revenue beat for the fourth quarter, $2.3 billion versus the consensus estimate of $1.87 billion. Transaction revenue also higher than anticipated at $1.6 billion. And in terms of the outlook, it says it sees first quarter subscription and services revenue of anywhere from $685 to $765 million. For the fourth quarter, that number came in at $641 million. So that is a build on the fourth quarter number, which, by the way, was higher than anticipated.
All right, a lot of movement. Applied Material down about 3.4%. Roku up about 13%. Palo Alto, also some movement there. And Twilio down about 9.6%. So again, seeing some stocks move here in the aftermarket. Palo Alto down about 6.5%. All right, guys, that's a wrap. A big earnings after the closing bell here. Your cross-platform radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Original terminals. I know, Alex, you're heading out. Scarlett's continuing with Romaine. Tim and I continuing here on Business Week. We'll see you again, same time, same place tomorrow.